and welcome to the Gotham Outsiders, our Batman special interview club. I am your host, Bat Obsessive Chris, and with me as always is Bat Talon TJ.
Yay! Hello everyone. I'm laughing at Chris trying to get that interview word out. We are having fun today, continuing our Pride celebration.
With the person who brings the most queer pride into every room she's in, our favorite, Jadzia Axelrod.
Hello, you flatter me. You flatter me with that, and
it's just
I
a
appreciate
fact.
it.
That is just a fact. We deal in facts on this show.
It's a very factual podcast. It's true.
It's extraordinarily factual podcast.
That is, we're talking about the DC Book of Pride today, people. I'm just going to get right to it because that is the wildest thing. It is technically a non-fictional book. It's a non-fiction book. Everything in it is made up. Like all of this, it's about fictional characters.
It's a non-fiction book about fictional things.
It's a non-fiction book about fictional characters.
Why is that such an extremely you thing to do?
It really is. It really is. Like everything was painstakingly researched and everything comes from a real place in other books.
Real place in a fake place.
In a fake place. But it was just halfway through writing it as like, I am writing a non-fiction book about made up things.
That's the best. Goodness. That people probably have stronger feelings about than they do most real life events.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have you back because this is our third Pride on this podcast, and you've been in some form a part of every single Pride celebration month here.
You're leading the Pride parade that is our show at all times. You're the one who starts out the parade and cuts the ribbon, all that deal.
Yeah.
And I love to do it. I love to do it.
Yes.
And I guess we should say thank you to DK for providing advanced review copies of this book.
I was so excited.
You got it before I did.
Yeah. It was a wild time.
That was very nice. I jokingly wrote Jadzia and said, okay, now I can cancel my pre-order.
But you did it because you're a good person. And because I threatened you.
If we don't get a volume 2 ever, it's because it's
me.
TJ canceled that
I swear I kept it. I'm going to give it away.
They were like, it was right at the line, but one person canceled. And now we can't do it.
That one book. Shouldn't have given it away.
Oh.
Well,
but we have some questions for Jadzia.
We do.
I'd love to. I have so many answers. You don't even
Let's see if they match.
Yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
There's so much to cover, but I'm just going to start us off with creating a book celebrating some of the amazing queer characters in DC is a huge
which is what the
deal.
book is. We should probably say that a little bit.
Oh, yes. We've talked about it a lot on the show
familiar,
already, but let's do it again.
If you're not familiar with the DC Book of Pride, it is a beautiful hardcover that contains little bios about 57 in amount.
Almost 69. Come on.
Right. It was not quite a cool number.
Volume 2 will have 420. Right. Come on.
Right. We can only hope. A selection of DC's queer characters, not all of them, because there are about 200, but some important ones as far as like their notoriety and people should know who these are. And some more obscure ones that I felt that was fun to include. So there's a group, variety. A sampling, what's the word I'm looking for?
Sampler plate of queer DC characters.
I'm going with variety. Does that sound correct?
A tasting menu of DC's queer characters.
Okay, that's
a wine tasting of queer characters.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's like an encyclopedia queeranica. So that's what we got going on.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's good. Okay. So questions proper.
Yes.
So if you don't already own it, go buy it because it's beautiful.
It's great.
It is. You need this on your coffee table. Like everyone put these on your coffee table and let all your guests look through it.
Such a good present book. But anyway, you, Jadzia, tell us about your journey to becoming involved in this process? How did you land this gig?
Oh, I got an email from DK, which is read essentially, DC Comics says you're a giant nerd and would love to research this. Is that true?
Aww.
And like, you got me pegged. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, they said it in a much nicer way, but it was essentially like, you know, a lot of these characters already and that you are familiar with them and would be into the research element of this project. And I was like, absolutely, that is true.
Yeah.
I do know these characters and I'm happy to dig deeper into them. And so, yeah, it was a whirlwind last summer where they said, here's a list of the 200 queer characters in the DC universe. A incomplete list, I want to add. I've been using that number, but I've been looking back over it recently. And I was reminded that the list as we had was, even then, it was incomplete because there's some characters like from the Legion of Superheroes, future timelines and other things that are not on the list because they wanted to keep it with people who are
multiversals. And
there were some multiversals, but it was like chronologically they wanted it now.
And even since then, it's like there's been so many new characters introduced.
There's been a bunch of new characters.
It was rude of them to introduce new characters after you wrote the book, I feel.
But we got Circuit Breaker at least.
We got Circuit. I wish someone had told me that Xanthi was in the mix. I don't know if there would have been time with how far Alyssa Long had planned that.
God,
I would love to have included them. But
I love Xanthi and that book. Just shout out to Spirit World. Oh my God.
Yeah, by Spirit World if you haven't. It's great.
Yes.
So anyway, you're just a big gay nerd.
I'm a big gay nerd. And they said, you probably have fun with this. And I said, yes.
You're a talented big gay nerd.
Yeah, I hesitated not at all and dove right in. And we selected the characters. And that was a process that actually happened. I thought we were done in the beginning, but it was continual about which characters needed to be included, which ones didn't, which characters needed to be included because they were going to appear in theme parks, which ones needed to be taken out because they were not as popular as others. A constant back and forth with me and DC and DK and editors to try to get the right list for publication. And that was something that went back and forth even up until like printing. Like I wrote entries that are not in the book because someone decided that wasn't a character that they
released the Jadzia cut.
So will I see Tim Drake at a theme park anytime soon?
Is that the character?
That's not up to me. That's not up to me.
Is that the one you were trying to tell us about?
Yeah, wink, wink.
Tim Drake at Six Flags. Oh my God. Okay, so what do you hope this book will do for young DC fans who pick it up?
I just hope they find some characters they like. I would have really wanted this book as a child and to like have this sort of like compendium of queer characters is just amazing. And like I hope people look at it and then are able to like jump from this to those characters' stories, which was the whole point of the book. It was like, this is an introduction. Here's what you need to know if you were picking up a comic book with them now. Here are some of the stories that they did. Maybe those are interesting and you should go research them and find them. It was just meant to be like a nice introduction to as many characters as possible and a very broad rainbow of types of people and sexualities.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved the introduction to the book where you're just like, this book isn't trying to have every character, so don't expect that. Like, I just thought it did really well.
I understand people who want it to be like a more finished encyclopedia with everybody, because I also want that. I would love that. That is not the book they hired me to make, and it's not the book I wrote, but that would be a really great book. I would also love to write that book, should any publisher want to do it.
Yeah.
Volume 2 will come out, and then they can combine it into an omnibus.
Oh, yes.
Long-term plan. Anyway, go buy a copy.
There's no plans for volume 2. I just want everyone to know.
It's TJ's.
I don't want to start any rumors.
To be clear, it is just TJ's long-term plan, and he has no control over this.
Just hope.
We're
manifesting.
manifesting.
Enough characters that we didn't include in this book that we could easily do a volume 2 and possibly even a volume 3 if we wanted to open it up to like more worlds and more timelines, which I would love. But
gotta do a trilogy.
That would be great, but there's no plans now.
We're manifesting. We're putting that on our
I'm
dream
all
boards.
about manifesting. I just don't want anyone to get too excited.
Yeah.
Fair.
Well, can you tell us about the process that goes behind creating a book like this? We know you did an incredible amount of research to create what we see on the page, but what was that process like? And was there anyone who assisted you in these efforts?
Most of the research was, as you can imagine, reading a lot of comic books. So that was a lot of fun. With some characters, though, who have extensive histories, because some of these characters are quite old or quite popular. So to pick a character completely and entirely at random. Let's say Tim Drake. That's a good one. Yeah, are you guys familiar with Tim Drake? Do you know
never
of him?
heard of him.
Right. Well, all right.
I saw him at a theme park once.
Yeah.
Saw him at Six Flags.
He's the sidekick for another character you may not have heard of called Batman.
Is it Batman? You said,
Batman.
or like
Batman?
Man? Like Stedman? It's like Stedman.
It's like Stedman, but a bat.
Oh.
Anyway,
okay.
So the problem with Tim Drake is that he's just been in a bunch of stories, and like
that's such a problem.
It's. I mean, and then you have the converse with characters like Bia, who've been in not as many, and so like, how do you make an entry with such little material? How do you make an entry with so much material? Fortunately, I had wonderful research assistants who helped me. One of whom is Chris, who helped me with the Tim Drake entry. And then I didn't have to sift through hundreds of Robin comics to find the right information I was looking for.
Because you know someone who'd done that for fun,
Exactly.
not for profit.
Like I had read a bunch of Robin comics. I have not read them all.
Yeah.
Only the gayest ones.
Of course.
So much attention to detail went into everything about this book. I know I was choking up when I saw the pronouns being normalized beside my favorite characters in a DC book. Then realizing there was a glossary of queer identities at the end, which I researched things like micro affirmations, and that was what that felt like, to counter microaggressions, having these micro affirmations. How did you decide what small touches needed to be included in this book?
Some of it was the format that they had already established with the Brave and the Bold book that DK had done a couple years ago about DC's female characters. So it's basically the same. I did want to put the pronouns in by the names, which is not something they had done before. And I wanted to put in those queer definitions in the glossary, because the glossary was just going to be superhero terms. And I was like, if we're going to have a glossary, we should probably also put in these other ones. And they were like, great, you write those then. I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah. Good. That's awesome.
So that was me. But like, again, most of the format was already chosen. The likes and dislikes and things of that was something that was carried over from Brave and the Bold. But I had so much fun with those that I was happy to include them in this.
Yeah.
So I was reading through the book, and I really got a kick out of some of the likes and dislikes for the characters. Like specifically, it was either Midnight or Apollo, and it was like, dislikes his partner pulling the sheets off in the middle of the night when they're sleeping. Really relatable. Anyway, I was just curious, like, did you come up with all those? What were your inspirations? And are there like any that you're particularly proud of?
I really like the Apollo Midnighter one, because that was taken like from a scene from an Apollo and Midnighter comic book. And I was like, oh, this is too good not to include in there somewhere.
So cute.
So I am proud of that. I like them all. Like they were the most fun part. Because like I only get so many words on these entries, so you can get a feeling of people's history, but not necessarily their personality. And so it was nice to have these little bits where you can get a personality one. I really like the Batwoman one, where it talks about how she likes Rosh Hashanah but hates eating kosher. I love that. And let's see. Trying to
Never
remember
like
off the top of my
pressure
head. Yeah, I
off
know.
the top of your head. Come on.
Um,
You wrote this, right?
I wrote it a while ago. I've slept since then. And I foolishly did not pull my copy off the shelf to flip through. But yeah, it was just a nice little fun thing to add after all the like intensive research to look at my notes of like little fun character things that I've noticed reading those books and like fit those in.
Yeah. Well, and I noticed under Dreamer's entry, I think it says Galaxy is a friend and ally.
Yes.
I love that.
They are. In Lazarus Planet, you see a photo on Dreamer's wall of them together.
Yeah.
And there's probably more of them interacting in the future.
Aw.
Yay.
Speaking of which, what does it mean to you to have Galaxy on the page with all these heroes?
It's wild. I kind of swung my weight around when I was hired and was like, well, if I'm writing this book, Galaxy's in it. And they were very cool about it, and said yes, of course. And then I said, and she's on the cover. And they're like, no. We're gonna put characters people have heard of on the cover. We can put her on the back cover. And I was like, that's great. Yeah, I'll take the back cover. And she's on the back cover, and it's wonderful. She's right by my name on the back cover, which yeah. So it's wild. It's wild to open this book and see her there, and to have her be, in this tome of DC characters, and like Harley Quinn is 2 pages away, and it's a little mind-blowing.
Well, she has earned her spot.
Yeah, she has.
Thank you.
As the gayest book DC has ever published until this one came out, right?
Right now I've taught myself. I've written a gayer book.
I hope that you plan that each book you put out is just the gayest book. Like that's
that's the problem. Hawkgirl is not as gay as this book.
That is a hard. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, I'm dabbling in cis heterosexuality just to see what that's like.
Ew. Just kidding.
No, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
I surrounded her with gay characters.
There you
Galaxy's
go.
in
That's
that
better.
too. And yeah, it has been fun to write Galaxy again. It's been a delight.
I can't wait for that. Oh my, we just said that in unison, TJ.
Well, other than Galaxy, of course, and I'm also gonna side note, maybe besides Alicia as well.
Right.
Do you have a favorite entry or entries in this book that stand out to you?
I love the Alan Scott entry. Alan Scott was difficult because so much has happened to that poor man. And I used to not like Alan Scott because I thought he was like very stiff, because he's always like the white bread, the one everyone looks up to kind of thing, a little ponderous, a little stuffy. Stuffy's a good word for how I've always seen him in the past. And then recently, with him having come out as gay, and then that stuffiness being retconned as like, oh, he was in the closet his entire life, and he was desperately afraid of being found out, and so that's why he kept everyone at a distance and was so formal and like reserved and tight-wound. And it's like, well, now that character is beautiful and tragic, and I love him, and I never want anything bad to happen to him ever again.
Oh,
yeah. So I turned around on Alan Scott, and I'm really proud of that entry. I really like it. I really like the one for Porcelain, who is just a delight. All Gail Simone characters are wonderful. We know this to be a fact. Porcelain is one of those. And they are a hoot, and I had a lot of fun writing that. And I'm glad that Arunya is in the book, because they're a character that's often forgotten, and they're an early kind of genderqueer character, which is fun. They need to come back some way, because I think they're great. And of course, my favorite now, Blue Snowman.
Yes.
Did I care about Blue Snowman before? I did not. And then I read a bunch of Blue Snowman comics, and it's like, this little goblin is the best. They're just hitting people with wrenches and
Yes.
cackling and freezing things needlessly. It's
the best.
the Blue
I had to
Snowman
go,
is wonderful.
I had to go grab my copy because I had to look at my favorite entry, which
Oh, yeah.
obviously is Tim Drake.
Mm.
And the part
Oh,
that
that's the
stands
one
out
Chris
to
helped
me.
out. Did you know?
Oh my gosh, he's Bat Guy,
Yeah.
Guy's sidekick. Okay. Anyway,
No, it's Batman, like Stedman.
Batman. The part that stood out to me, and I think we talked about this over text. It says his first boyfriend Bernard,
Yes.
implying there will be another.
He's very
More-
young. He's very
right.
young. He's
More
like what?
superior.
He's like 18, 19
Super
max.
boy shaped.
No.
Possibly.
No.
I might
See,
be
this
reading
is-
into this.
TJ's agenda is strong here.
Listen,
Yes.
I want you to be right. I just worry that you're
Thank you.
not.
I know.
She's just
One
protecting
day.
you from yourself, TJ.
Well, besides that one, I know I said excluding Alicia, but
Mhm.
I can say her because I just
Yeah.
love the trans pride flag in the background.
Yes.
Looks so good.
Yeah,
Like,
all
that's a
the
Twitter
entries are
icon
just genuinely
waiting to
so
happen.
beautiful. I think Midnighter and Apollo might be my favorite non-Galaxy page and
Mhm.
non-Tim Drake page, obviously. They were the Midnighters and Apollo. Yeah, those entries are amazing.
For sure.
Mhm. So we've seen people excited and sharing pages online.
Yes.
From our end, it's been incredible to see people get excited about, their favorite characters being featured. How has it been for you on your end?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's just really cool to see people get so excited about this book. I didn't know what the reaction was going to be. When I wrote it, I was like, I hope positive, but I don't know. So it's been really gratifying to see people so excited and so delighted to see these characters and see that they were written by someone who loves them, and to see that love recognized on the page has been wonderful.
Yeah.
Off the top of your head, who did the cover of the book?
Paulina, see, you would ask me to say
Sorry.
her name out loud, and I am not
That is
confident.
totally okay. I was just curious because it's so beautiful.
Paulina Ganusho. That's
Mm.
probably wrong, but she's great.
Yeah.
I hope everyone listening has read Zodiac Star Force, which is a great
Yes.
I have
queer
not.
variation on Sailor Moon.
Yeah, it's very
that
good.
she drew. So yeah,
Well,
definitely.
the cover is beautiful.
It's
So
so
I'm
fun.
excited to check out more of her work. As with any time someone writes a book, which is meant to be comprehensive, but could never be exhaustive, some people have strong feelings about who is not in the book. What would you hope people will realize about this book?
Well, it's like you said, it's not meant to be comprehensive, and there wasn't room for everyone. And like there were some characters whom I love and who I feel a great deal of affection for. And in the end, the decision was not to include them. Danny the Street is a wonderful character. And it was decided that in a book with limited space, we would prioritize the human characters, not the characters who are objects, even if they are sentient objects. That's the same reason Monsieur Malat is not in there, because he's a gorilla. And like, why do we give a gorilla a page space and then cut out a human character? So it's just one of those things, like, we can't fit, since the decision was made without me that we couldn't fit in everyone. And then it was like, well, who can we fit? Who are not even necessarily the important people, but who are the ones who give the broadest scope? Who shows? Like I said, Aruna is in there. They've only had one appearance, but like, I like them a lot. And I think that both as an early genderqueer character and also as someone from India, like, that was cool and not what we have. There's a lot of white people in the book.
Yeah.
And that's something we're all working with. So they get in the book. Monsieur Mala, a gorilla, does not. The brain does not either, because the brain is a brain in a jar. But Poison Ivy gets in. So we're not completely against villains or anything, but there was a decision to kind of like prioritize characters that were well-rounded people.
Right.
And there were some other characters that I liked that aren't in the book, and that's too bad. There was going to be originally more Amazons, and then it was decided that like some of those Amazons had to go. But like, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like when there's limited space and there's so many characters, you can't fit everybody in. I mean, my solution would be to fit everybody in and do a huge book. But that I'm not the publisher.
Yeah.
That's why we did volume 2, manifesting.
Yeah, earlier. I mean, you said it, you know, it was out of your hands to a point, and you said you even wrote some that didn't make the cut. So like, you know.
Yeah.
I just want to emphasize, like, it wasn't just you. Like, there were so many people.
It wasn't me.
Behind the book.
Yeah, like there were some characters who I was told to include that I didn't feel should be in the book. I will tell you those characters in person should anyone come up and ask, but I'm not going to say it on here.
That's fair.
Because there was reasons, and I respected those reasons when they were told to me. But it was like at first glance, it was like, I don't know, we want this one in, and then I was told why, and it was like, okay, all right,
yeah.
You
know, volume 2,
volume 2,
or 3.
Well, here's an equally serious question that we obviously spent a long time thinking about. You've now written the DC Book of Pride.
Yes.
What would your dream DC Book of Gay Wrath be? I told you it was an equally serious question.
Yeah, no, that one's heavy. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's all the Dark Universe books going out right now, right?
Yes.
Like, so this would be Dark Rainbow, obviously.
Dark Rainbow, yes.
And it would just be all the bad attitude queers. So Crush would be there, Prometheus, Poison Ivy, obviously, and they would just run rampant. Just a huge pride parade of anger. Midnighter and Apollo again. Like most of the characters in the book, it would be about the same. It would just be darker.
It would just be a different vibe.
Yeah,
more
like,
villains,
all
more
of those
anti-heroes.
characters, and this is something I really like about a lot of them, is they are angry, and that they have their reasons for being angry, and I like that a lot. And I feel like there's a strong urge to kind of soften a queer character and to make them nothing against Heartstopper, but make them a Heartstopper.
Hey, we need different kinds,
right? And I love Heartstopper, and I love that kind of story and those kind of like lovable, huggable characters. But then there's also some that are angry and won't take any bullshit, and like that's something I like about Galaxy. It's something I like about Lisa. That's something I like about Crush and about Apollo and Midnighter. And about so many of the great characters in there.
I feel like every Batman villain would be in that book.
Right. Well, everyone
Catwoman.
in Gotham is gay. So like
right.
Come on.
You can't put every Batman villain in the Book of Pride.
I've been trying to think of like a
gay wrath book.
I'm trying to think of a straight person in Gotham, and it's been really hard.
I feel like it's just Gordon.
Yeah.
But he has
a lot of
Batman,
dead
though.
Bruce Wayne. Yeah, exactly. There's a
know,
lot of dead Bruce Wayne girlfriends. Like Silver St. Cloud is probably straight.
I don't know. Maybe she was bisexual. She just died too soon to know it.
You know,
Silver
or
Straight
maybe
Cloud.
she was bisexual in college, like a lot of people were.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess you're right. Silver St. Cloud probably experimented. Like I'm
just saying her name is Silver St. Cloud. That's a straight person.
You're right.
Please.
There's not like a Steve Lombard in Gotham, right? Is the thing. Like who is Gotham's Steve Lombard? And
I don't know. I've always joked that Slade Wilson's mask is the super straight colors. So.
Yeah, but it's also divided, right?
It is true. And let's be honest, he's in love with Dick Grayson. So I was getting ready to say before we took this tangent that you had a very serious answer to my very stupid question, but luckily we ended up here. So it's fine.
Wonderful. Well, we knew we were going to eventually.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to redirect us to.
TJ's using his librarian skills.
Yeah.
We've been talking
Bring us back, TJ. Bring us back.
Bring us back. So you wrote last year for the DC Pride anthology,
yes.
But you're also contributing to the upcoming one, which might be out by the time this recording is going up. Can you tell us anything about your contribution to the anthology?
Sure. I wrote a very short piece for the Rachel Pollack tribute in the end of it. And it was about, I've never met Rachel Pollack. I want to make that clear. So it was more about my relationship with her work than my relationship with her, and how much her work has meant to me over the years. And then I've read everybody else's entries, which were about actually knowing Rachel Pollack and being touched by her life. And I was like, I have no business in this. Why did you want me in here, Andrea? But she reassured me that it was fine. And it's a really beautiful tribute. It's very moving. Like, I cried reading other people's entries. And mine is in there too. It's weird to think about because, like, Rachel was writing Doom Patrol in the early 90s. And, like, it feels like there should have been more trans creators at DC Comics in between me and her. And there certainly have been. I'm not saying there's none, because there have been. I'm not going to list them all because then I'll forget somebody and they'll be mad at me. But I remember you guys, okay? Know that I remember you guys. It just, it feels like there should be more. And like, I shouldn't be this close to that legacy as the way that I am. And certainly if we want to look at it like trans characters being created by trans creators, like it goes right from Kate Godwin to Galaxy, which is weird. But it's nice to know that, like, what she is doing didn't stop with her. And that's nice.
Yeah. I've been reading issues on DC Universe Infinite. I was last night, and at the end of the one issue I was reading, they had a beautiful tribute page to her. It was just like a quote from, I'm assuming, Doom Patrol. It was so pretty. But I don't even know much about her work. Just basically what I've read online and what you've told me, and just like seeing the impact that she had and how she's being honored. Like, I get kind of choked up just seeing that image. So, like, I can't even imagine, like, I don't know, for you or anyone who knew her, like, that's beautiful.
Yeah. You should read her Doom Patrol run. It's so good.
I want to.
So good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's on DC Infinite.
That.
Like, it's there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe next year for Pride.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would be fun.
They just released an omnibus, too. So it's never been a better time to get into her work. It was hard to find those books before. Oh, my gosh. Let me tell you, as someone who... like, lurked in so many comic book stores in the back issues trying to find Rachel Pollack Doom Patrol comics because they were just not there.
Yeah.
No, I think we will. People want that, and we plan to, and this year I'm like, it's a little close to home, but next year I think that'd be a real fun. Maybe we'll ask you to talk about it with us.
Oh, I'd love to.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of DC Pride, you also wrote an amazing story in the anthology last year.
Yes.
Our listener, Dan, wanted us to ask if you could say anything about where you'd take the character of Alicia now, if you got the chance.
Wild to assume that I'm not doing anything with Alicia now. Which is neither, can neither confirm nor deny. I'm not saying I'm doing anything, but I am saying that if you like Alicia, maybe you should be reading Hawkgirl.
Oh,
So,
Okay.
I have that aside, I have larger plans for Alicia that I would love to bring to fruition. We'll see if I ever get a chance. I've certainly brought it up to editors, and it's always been a like, maybe. And I will take a maybe because it's not a no. So we'll see. But I love that character so much. Like the old, it's weird to call those Batgirl books old because they're it's only what, like 15 years or something, but like that is a long time. So, but like the Gail Simone Alicia Yo stories are some of my favorites. And so to like, I've deeply fallen in love with that character. And when I deeply fall in love with a character, you better believe that I will put them in every single thing I write. As we've noticed that Hawkgirl has a new best friend called Galaxy. So if you wanted to guess, like, is Alicia going to show up? It's, it's a pretty safe bet.
Could happen.
Could happen. Could happen.
We have an educated guess.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Like the goal, and I've said this before, is to have Alicia and Galaxy and Hawkgirl in a new Birds of Prey.
Ooh.
But who knows if that's going to happen.
From your lips to the DC gods.
Right.
Ears.
They can be in other things too. Like I have plans that doesn't have to have a Birds of Prey logo. It can be a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I do love Alicia as a character. I like what she brings out in other characters because she has a different perspective than traditional superheroes. And so any chance to pull that out and to have her do that is a delight.
Yeah, I know. I hope you definitely get to do an Alicia story again.
Oh, yes.
Like, last year's anthology was so strong. Like every single story was really good. But I think that was one of the more iconic stories. Just that shot of her with the bat,
Bat
it's hard
hyphen
to
girl.
top. Yeah, that's just iconic, for that character. I think that's the page people are gonna think of when they think of her. So anyway, they should give you the chance to tell more.
That's what got me the Hawkgirl gig. Was the editor loved
Nice.
the Alicia Yo story and was like, you did such a great job at that. I want to see you do it on a larger scale. And I'm like, great.
Yeah, you're like
Happy
thinking
to.
they're gonna say, do you want to do an Alicia miniseries? And they're like, so how about Hawkgirl?
It was more
And you're
like,
oh.
It was more like, do you want to do Hawkgirl? And I was like, yes, but why me?
Well,
and they
this
said,
is
well, we really liked your Alicia Yo story.
Yeah.
This is a great segue into our next question, which is that you've been teasing your upcoming Hawkgirl series since it was announced, especially the inclusion of Galaxy. Can you describe what it was like to transfer Galaxy over into the monthly DC universe? How will this Galaxy differ from her appearance in the YA graphic novels?
Well, she's older now, so that's wild to have a 4-year gap between the Galaxy in the graphic novel and the Galaxy in Hawkgirl, because we wanted her and Hawkgirl to be about the same age and be peers and not have like a teen sidekick kind of thing. So that's fun to like look at the character that I created as a teenager, thinking she was always going to be a teenager, because a lot of teen superheroes never grow out of that. Looking at you, Tim Drake. And and then to be like, well, what if she did grow up and become a young adult? Like, who is she? Who is Galaxy at 22, 23? Like, what is that person like? And it's fun to put her in like superhero situations where she has a cool costume and gets to use her superpowers against monsters and bad guys. And like, that's not something we did in Galaxy the Pretty Star on purpose. Like, it was a very different type of story. And so to do it here is fun. It's just, I'm having a blast writing Hawkgirl #1 because it's just everything I've always wanted to do with superhero comics.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And Galaxy in particular is a lot of fun to write in this because she is a nice contract to Hawkgirl's more brusque professionalism. And like she still has that kind of goofball excitement at like everything, which is, again, it's a lot of fun. And she gets to be really gay in it. Also great, as we've said.
Essential.
I
And
know.
Argus is in the book.
Argus
right?
is in the book.
Oh,
Okay,
that I
good. I
can
was
say.
worried.
Yeah, it's
can I ask,
it's
just
great.
like kind of going off the book here, like what was your relationship with the Hawkgirl character before being asked to write the series? Like, were you a fan? Because like
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved her. I haven't kept
Okay.
up with her a lot, but I loved her back when I was reading JSA as it was coming out. These 20 years ago. So I loved her there because she was the one who was always like, shut up, old man. And everyone else was treating like Jay Garrick and Alan Scott as these like revered warrior heroes, idols, gods, characters. And she was like, whatever, you guys stink. Like, I'll do my own thing as I like it. And I've always liked that. I like that she was the one who was kind of like not revering the old guys just because they were old. And so yeah, that's a character that I've always loved from there. I didn't follow her in Hawkman following the JSA because I wasn't into the Hawkman stories at that time. I have since read them again, and like, these are great stories. So I missed out earlier, I'll be honest. And like, it's just a character that I've always enjoyed because she's got this sort of brash perspective. It's kind of like Alicia in that way, in that she looks at things a little differently than, say, Superman would. She's a lot more violent than others. Like, she is someone who's like, will hit you upside the head with her mace. And I think that's interesting to like look at like, what are the circumstances where she pulls that mace out, and what are the circumstances where she doesn't? What are the circumstances where she takes the direct approach of like, and what are the circumstances where she gets to be a little creative? And the fun part is like having her with Galaxy, who's very creative with her powers. And that kind of bleeds into Hawkgirl's battle strategies as well. So we see them being very different. And as the book goes on, they kind of like help each other. Hawkgirl helps Galaxy be a better superhero, and Galaxy helps Hawkgirl be a little more flexible.
I love it.
Well, I know nothing about Hawkeye, but I'm gonna give it a try.
Hawkeye.
That was a joke. Just kidding.
TJ does this just to make me laugh, and it works every time.
And you don't have to know anything about Hawkgirl to give it a try. Like, I tried to write it so that it was very new reader friendly. I gave the script to friends of mine who had no idea who these characters were, and it was like, does this make sense? Does everything make sense? And I was pleased to find out that it does. So you should be able to come into this cold, and I will hold your hand as I explain some of the more esoteric parts of Hawk lore, because there's a bunch of it, but we don't dwell on it. You don't have to know everything that's ever happened to Hawkman and Hawkwoman and Hawkgirl and why those characters are different. You can just follow along with the story we're telling and enjoy it that way.
Well, my hands get sweaty, so thank you for holding them.
No problem.
I'm, however, wiping my hand off after TJ held it. So our next question comes from our listener, Valentina. Huge shout out, Valen, who has been like one of our most loyal listeners. So excited to have a question from you. Also, absolute Jadzia stan here. So Valen, who's like a badass queer woman in her own right, wants to know your thoughts on the character Agent Harpy, a forgotten queer character from the Shadow War of Hawkman. And she wants to know about your thoughts on this as you are now putting your own touch on the Hawkgirl legacy.
Asian Harpy is one of those characters that is like assumed to be straight and cis, but also spends a lot of time cross-dressing, and there's a lot of them in comics.
Yes.
And Madame Fatale, who's another one that Valentina enjoys.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of those characters, and I never know what to do with them. I'll be honest, because it's like, do we push this in more of a trans direction? Do we leave it alone? It's it's something that always makes me wary, I'll say. So I will not be doing anything with Asian Harpy. But that's also not my call. I was specifically told when doing Hawkgirl not to use any old characters.
Okay.
So older Hawk characters are not going to show up. We're not going to see any of the old villains. We're not going to see. I was told I couldn't even use Ma Hunkel, which is my eternal question when I'm doing a DC project. Is,
I
can
assume
I put Ma Hunkel?
I assume you always ask that, regardless of
true.
the project.
They'll break down eventually.
I'm excited for the Ma Hunkel solo comic that you're write one day.
But I wanted Ma Hunkel to be in there because of their JSA connection. And I was told, like, no old characters, even fun ones like Ma Hunkel.
Right.
So like Asian Harpy was right out before I even started writing.
Yeah.
So you're like, no old characters, but Galaxy's new.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why she's in there, is because they were like, yeah, that is actually an interesting idea. That's not something that's been done with dogs before. We won't be going back to Egypt either. That was another thing they told me not to do. Again, which is fair, yeah. Like, and because there was just a Hawkman series a few years ago that was very lore dense. And it's great. Everybody should read it. But I don't blame DC for being like, let's try a different angle.
Yeah, something a little more accessible, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm really interested in Kendra as a character and not so much as the latest, like the previous versions of her interest me less than the one that's right now. And her relationship to those previous versions is interesting to me, but I don't need to go back and tell a story about those previous versions. But back to Asian Harpy, yeah, before we even started writing, that was a character who was off the table. But could be fun, and I would love to see, like, there's nothing wrong with that character. They're fun. If I had a good hook for them, I would love to do something with them.
Very cool.
Nice. Well, thank you for answering those listener questions. I was excited to include them.
Yeah.
You have been on so often that you've answered all of our usual fun questions that we ask at the end of intervers, which means
like maybe more than once a couple of them, not gonna lie.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just love being on the show. You guys are great.
Well, Chris had to come up with a brand new funny question for you.
Okay.
So
inspired by Twitter. So there you go.
How do you think various Bat Family and greater Gotham characters would react to someone telling them their pronouns?
Okay. All right. Well, see, the problem with this is that I take this too seriously.
I love
like,
it when you take our silly questions seriously, though. That's one of my favorite things.
All right, so
let's go. Let's do it.
We'll just do them off. Batman takes it in stride, and if it bothers him or surprises him or does not match his personal view of you, you will not see it. Like, that's a blank face you're getting, and he's like, okay, and moving on.
Yes,
because the mission has to happen, right? And he'll update his file on you in the back computer later.
Yes, but he fully pretends that he knew beforehand, right? Like, we agree on that. Okay, whether he did or not.
Whether he did or not, it'll be like, yeah, of course.
Obviously, I know everyone's pronouns before they do. I'm Batman.
Right, and like in some cases, he does.
Yes.
I think Dick Grayson is probably a little too enthusiastic about it. Right? And
so
like goes out of his way to use your pronouns in ways that don't
God.
necessarily need to be done.
With too
He
much
just
emphasis.
wants to make sure you understand that he understands.
Like they really like this, and you're just like, oh my God.
Right. It's like, have you met Chris? They're so great. I love them. They're my favorite person.
Suddenly the most pronouns ever used in a conversation.
Uh-huh. But it comes from a good place. It comes from a good place.
It's a very Big Brother move, really.
Jason probably says, whatever, you still suck, and moves on. But he'll never forget.
Yeah.
And he'll never mistake it. He'll never, ever, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tim thinks too hard about it.
Oh God, he apologizes for not knowing ahead of time, doesn't he?
Exactly. Because he's like, I should have known. I should have known.
So sorry.
And
I've
like,
been
no
invalidating you. Oh no.
And he's like, no, you don't understand. I should have known. And then he beats himself up and makes it about him, strangely, which poor guy.
Boy, baby.
I know. Let's see. Stephanie Brown is cool. Like, I think she's young enough that's like, yeah, whatever. Most of my friends are not male or female.
Yeah.
So we're cool. I think it's so hard to judge on what's her name?
Cassandra.
Thank you. I couldn't think of Cassandra for some reason, even though she's my favorite Batgirl.
Yeah.
It's so hard to gauge because like there's like 4 different versions of that character. There's like the pre-New 52 one, the current one, the
what about the one
Gotham...
that lives in your head rent
right
free? Like that
like the platonic ideal of Cassandra Cain.
Yes.
In my mind, she just gives a thumbs up.
Right. She's accepted. I think the idea, see, like verbal communication is still not her strong suit.
Right.
So I think she's like, okay, why is this important? It's not, because it's not important to her.
Yeah.
So she doesn't understand quite why it's important to you, but she doesn't like make a big deal about it. I think is probably accurate.
She like sneaks into Steph's window that night and gets Steph to explain it to her.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Got it. I got you.
You gotta tell me Damien and Alfred.
Right.
I gotta know.
Damien is upset that it took you this long to figure out.
100%. He somehow makes you feel bad, but not in a transphobic way.
No.
Like, why are you not as good an ally as Damien was?
Right. About your own life.
Like what? How did we get here?
Alfred bakes you a cake.
Oh,
which is sweet.
It is.
With they, them icing.
Right. Yeah, whatever it is.
Then he teaches
like,
you all the
like
dad jokes that are about like gender pronouns that he knows.
Yeah, and he's like, since this is a rebirth for you, then we shall have a birthday. And it's very sweet. It's a little too much, but it comes from a good place, so you let it go.
Yeah.
And then after that, after the little event, it's fine. Unlike with Tim Drake, where he's still just trying too hard.
Years later, he's not over it yet. Yeah.
Bluebird is cool.
Oh yeah.
Has a special high five.
Yes.
For each pronoun is like, oh, you're Azizer. Let me show you. And like,
yes. 100%.
Oh my
God, that's good.
You're gonna go through the whole city.
Gordon, tell me how
Gordon doesn't
reacts.
Understand, but he likes that you're happy.
Yeah, you're so right. Gordon's like nobody's really explained to me what these are, but good for you. Barbara's like told me 12 times. It is really, I don't get it, but I'm here.
Barbara gets really excited and then is kind of disappointed that you're not choosing like a neo pronoun. It's like, oh, okay, they is fine. No, that's really good that that's you.
But then she hacks into every system and changes your name and pronouns.
She'll fix it for you.
For everywhere. Like the whole government, you don't even have to file. She's changed it already.
Right. Birth certificate, all of it.
What about Two-Face?
Well, he's of two minds of it, obviously.
Were you waiting for a chance to say? He flips a coin to decide if he's going to respect you today.
Exactly. He's like, do I respect the pronouns or not? Let's find out.
God. How does Killer Croc feel about pronouns, Jadzia?
Killer,
listeners want to know.
I love that you're writing this for us for free. I love this.
Killer Croc has an aunt that's now non-binary and is totally down.
Yeah. I feel like the sewer community that he runs is probably real queer friendly.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, they're like scalies down there. They're down.
Oh, well, that's perfect. Anyone else we want to say before we wrap this up?
Catwoman's going to tease you about it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
What, Kate Kane?
Kate Kane is cool. Like, she's just cool. Yeah. She's like the one that's like deals with it the way you want everyone else to. Which
Very
is like,
normal about it.
Yeah, she's normal about it, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, right on. It's not the blaseness that Stephanie Brown does. It's like, whatever, man. Yeah. Whereas Kate Kane is like, good for you, slugger. And is just chill about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because she's been gay for a long time. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was so fun.
That was really fun. This may be my new favorite question we have. I love it.
Well, I was worried. I was like, I don't know how I would answer this, but you just had an answer for everyone.
I think about these characters too much.
Yeah,
is what it is. I'm not even writing a Batman book, and I think about these characters too much. So
yeah. See, TJ, I knew in my heart that Jadzia would have a definitive answer.
You knew. Well, this has been so much fun.
It has been so much fun.
Would you, Jadzia, like to tell our listeners where to find you online or plug anything coming up?
Don't find me.
You said that like a marriage proposal too.
I was gonna
be like,
find you in person?
Take this Twitter handle to be your
yes.
Yeah, don't look for me online. Just don't. I'm kidding. I'm on Twitter at Planet X. I'm on Instagram at Planet X. If those sites ever fall apart and die,
which they may,
I will not be on another one. My social media days are swiftly coming to a middle, if not an end. And I think that's fine because I'm writing these books now. You can read those. Absolutely pick up the DC Book of Pride, pick up Galaxy, the Prettiest Star. In July, Hawkgirl #1 comes out. It is, in my personal opinion, a heartbreaking work of staggering genius. I just saw some lettered pages before we got on here, and they are amazing. Like, it's really incredible to see this book come together. It's a wild story. If you like muscular women beating up things with a mace, this is the book for you.
And it's how many issues as of right now?
As of right now, it is 6, and that is the first arc. So if we get more issues, I certainly have plans for more arcs. But if we end at 6, then we end at 6, and we've told a really great story.
I'm so excited. Oh my God.
It's incredible.
I'm gonna be a Hawkgirl stan by issues.
Yeah, you should be. Kendra's standing.
You'll know the difference between Hawkeye and Hawkgirl by
I'm gonna buy a malice. Is that what that is that she carries?
A mace.
A mace.
A malice.
Sorry,
I mean, you can use your mace with malice.
I will buy the idea of malice in honor. Well, Jadzia, it's always an absolute blast for us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Gotham Outsiders. You can find me, Chris, on Twitter at The Myth of Psyche, where I talk about feminism, psychology, and Batman, of course. But you can also find me on my new show at Thirsty on Tune, over on the Talking Comics feed, where Bronwyn and I review webtoons and drink wine and also review romance novels. You can also find me writing reviews at talkingcomics.com, and I am now accepting consulting clients. So if you need someone to do sensitivity reading or consult on psychology or queer identity, I'm your person. You can also find my co-host TJ
at Troyfin2 on Twitter, where I talk about books, gay things, gay books, and all sorts of things, including Batman pretty often, way more than I used to. And I recently became an official librarian, so you can find all sorts of book reviews that I post just for fun, a lot of advanced reviews of books that haven't come out yet. So if you're looking for a nice gay read, please hit me up. You could also find me talking on other podcasts just here and there if you search my name on any podcast service provider that you listen to.
And you can find us both talking about Batman all the time at the Gotham Outsiders. So join us next time, same bat place.